Welcome to another album rankings on my Pop Dissected podcast. Today we are finally doing part 2 of my Rihanna albums ranking. With 8 albums out, I covered positions 5 through 8 in my first video. Now we'll look at which albums I have holding positions 1 through 4. If you're curious where the other albums are placed, be sure to check out my first part of my ranking. As I always state, this ranking is based upon a fresh first listen, in which I'll note what I think is strong about each album, where I think it may be lacking, and then a final conclusion. I don't weigh sales, legacy, or impact in any of these rankings. It's strictly about what I'm listening to. As we continue, let me know what artist you want to see ranked next. So now, let's dive into the remaining 4 albums of Rihanna's I've yet to rank, and see where the ones that were not in the last video stand. Coming in at 4th is Anti. Anti was probably the hardest album to rank, and could be swapped with the album I have ranked 3rd. Overall, we're given a very experimental album by Rihanna that isn't packed with radio catering hits, which I think works. For the most part, the album is down-tempo and very soulful, which was a welcome change of direction. As I will discuss with the album following this, Anti has its strengths in the latter half of the album. Same Old Mistakes was the track for me that really made me think differently about this album. The beat drop, the reverbed vocals, it's heavenly. While Yeah, I Said It also made me change my mind on the record, Same Old Mistakes just hit a lot harder. Up until that point in the track listing, I didn't have anything distinct to say about the album, or really anything that was positive or negative. However, after those couple of tracks, I became invested. Never Ending offers a wonderful stripped-back performance, followed by Love on the Brain, where Rihanna really showcases her vocal range. Close to You is just downright beautiful, with stunning lyrics. The bonus track Pose is really a one-off sonically, but it's a banger. Very Rihanna, like what we'd anticipate from her. Consideration opened the album well. It's very pulled back, muted, but groovy. James' joint just sounds ethereal, and I live for the utilization of the synths. I felt Desperado was a bit dark sounding, that waits in between belonging on this album, but also not at the same time. Kiss It Better has excellent layered vocals in the chorus, though it's a song that doesn't explore anything new. I do love the fuzzy vocals we see in Woo, and Sex With Me, despite sounding a bit generic, is a fun track. Now, of course, I had a few tracks I just didn't care for, Goodnight Gotham being one of them. Needed Me felt very clustered in its production, and I wasn't a fan of the vocals in Higher, which may get me some flack. Work has good production, but frankly, I'm never going to be able to get past the annoyingly repetitive chorus. Overall, Anti is of course intended to be experimental, and not really tie itself to one specific genre, sound, style, or what have you. While creative freedom is important for any artist, the album would have been a lot stronger, relying on more subdued and muted production, as that's where I felt it performed the best. I think some of the messiness in other songs is not enjoyable and takes away from the record. However, where this album shines, it shines bright. 7 out of 10. Coming in at 3rd is Unapologetic, which I think is a pretty mixed bag, but to be honest, as I've stated, the back half of the album is where it really succeeds. It's full of emotional tracks and ballads where Rihanna truly expresses herself, and I don't think we get to see a lot of that very frequently throughout her discography. I felt there were solid songs throughout, but the first half of the album rehashes so much of what we heard already for 2 consecutive albums, and for me, it's just tiring. It isn't anything new or that I care to listen to. Are they bad songs though? Not really. I felt some songs were very heavy-handed in their electronic influences and really leaned into that sound just a bit too much. Right Now is a perfect example, which I found to be an utter mess along with Jump. Tracks like Diamonds and Stay are examples of where this album really soars high and where Rihanna is at her best. I appreciate a good clubbin', going out banger, but 7 albums in, you're gonna want something different, and I know that's the case for me. Talk That Talk really began wading into uninspired material, and half of Unapologetic embraces it. We've heard it, and it isn't interesting or new anymore. The slower, more deep songs off this album are what make it, in my opinion. and those are so strong, I'm giving this an 8 out of 10. For second place, we've got Good Girl Gone Bad, and this album arguably offers some of Rihanna's best work. Here, we're really committed to a specific style and sound. The album offers really solid cohesion that is rarely deviated from. Though I didn't find there to be any strong lyricism, a few tracks do have that. With this album, I've noticed its strengths lie primarily within the production itself and Rihanna's vocal performance. While there may be a handful of songs that contain substance within their story, I found that it wasn't that big of an issue on this album compared to others, since most of the songs are just enjoyable as they are. For the songs that didn't stick out to me, but I didn't find bad, were Shut Up and Drive, which was a bit heavy-handed with its rock influences but had a solid hook, Hate That I Love You, having nice vocals despite them being very processed. There's also Take a Bow, which is lyrically strong, but production-wise is very bland, and Questioning Existence, which I think has the same type of issue, so to speak. There's also If I Never See Your Face Again, featuring Maroon 5's Adam Levine. It's a fine song, but in my opinion, I think Adam's voice contrasts with Rihanna's too much, and it doesn't complement hers. They're both good singers, but I just don't think they mesh well together. It's a bit of an odd collaboration. It's a groovy song, but I would say the album could do without it. But given this song was included on a reissue of the album, I think that's fine. I only had one song I wasn't too fond of, which was Say It. It feels super out of place with the sounds of the other songs on the album, and would have been better suited for one of her first two records. This leaves us with the rest of the album. Umbrella, Push Up on Me, Don't Stop the Music, Breaking Dishes, Sell Me Candy, Let Me Get That, Rehab, and the title track. Every single one of these songs were standouts to me without a doubt. Our first three tracks I listed all effectively give this more finished sound and recognized vision of what the album will sound like. Glossy, R&B, and pop infusion. It's all so catchy. Push Up on Me almost sounds like it's a precursor to that 2010s electro pop we'd see a few years later after this album's release, which honestly works on the record, despite it being unique in comparison to the other songs. Breaking Dishes is sassy and arguably one of the best songs on this album. There's a great revenge-esque story here, which allows for a nice thematic change to typical dance DJ club songs. Sell Me Candy is cluttered with its production, but effectively so. Let Me Get That has fun, bright production, and though I think the lyrics are kind of dumb, it's still a really good song. Rehab is such an appropriate change of pace on the album, slowing things down, but not doing a total 180 to be a ballad. It works with the album's sound and energy. The title track is the perfect end cap to this album, working amazingly as a bookend with Umbrella. And then, we have Disturbia. What can I say beyond it's just about as perfect can get? Overall, Good Girl Gone Bad is a pretty flawless album. I don't find any shortcomings beyond some nitpicks about how the songs are written. But the amount of songs on this album that I find to be perfect is incredible. It's also here that I realize it isn't really a factor if Rihanna is actively writing her music or not, or only contributes a little or a lot. And it goes to show, an artist doesn't have to write every single one of their own songs to be considered great. Because as I stated, the focus on this album is her vocals and the production. I do believe this album also showcased Rihanna's transition into a more adult-themed career instead of being so sweet and youthful. And while A Girl Like Me began that transition, Good Girl Gone Bad commits to it hard. 9 out of 10. So, number 1, Loud. And I find this to essentially be the perfect pop album. When I say I don't have a single gripe about it, I mean it. Maybe one or two. But it's minor compared to everything else. This album is so evenly paced with the slower tracks, such as Fading and California King Bed, both of which were standouts to me, the latter incorporating very cool rock elements and captivating vocals. Other standouts for me include Love the Way You Lie, obviously, and Cheers, Drink to That. All the other songs I don't have much to say because I felt they were all really good. I think this album balances the fun anthems that come in full force with levitating production and showcases a more mature side of Rihanna that is playful, sexy, but also has something to say, which I felt a lot of her other albums did lack. Now, I could praise Loud all day long, but I'm just going to be repeating myself over and over. With that, Loud, without a doubt, is a 10 out of 10 album, with critiques that are so minor, I don't even think they deserve time to discuss. I am thoroughly impressed with this album. I feel like at this point, we're given something that can be described as classic Rihanna, and this album embodies that so completely. It is awesome. So, my entire ranking goes as follows. 8th position is Music of the Sun, followed by A Girl Like Me at 7th. Rated R comes in at 6th, with Talk That Talk in 5th. Anti holds 4th, Unapologetic 3rd, Good Girl Gone Bad 2nd, and Loud at 1st. What do you think of these rankings, and how would you rank Rihanna's albums? Let me know what artist you'd like to see next in the comments. Thanks for listening, everybody. And before we close out this video, I'd love to quickly shout out my channel members: Daniel Barron, Skyhawker, Steven, David Vaz Mediano, and Carl Dillinson. Thank y'all so much for your support. I'll see you all next time.